The flashing lights in my rearview mirror weren't for a speeding ticket. I felt in my bones. This was something else entirely, and they were about to make the biggest mistake of their careers. The rhythmic pulse of red and blue painted the interior of my Lexus, a frantic heartbeat against the calm morning light. I pulled over, my hand steady on the steering wheel, my actual heart rated disciplined, even tempo. 20 years on the federal bench, and before that, 8 years in military intelligence had taught me to control the body's primal scream in moments of manufactured crisis. And this felt manufactured. The officer, a tall, broad-shouldered man who seemed to fill my entire side mirror, approached with a predator's gait. His name tag read Carr. His hand rested on his holster, a casual display of power that was anything but. "Exit the vehicle now," he barked, his voice a gravelly command that bypassed any pretense of courtesy. "This car is flagged as stolen." I watched him in the mirror, my mind a whirring engine of logic and analysis. "Breathe, Evelyn, just breathe. You face down hostile interrogators in war zones. This is just a cop on a power trip." A voice in my head, however, whispered a more sinister possibility. Or is it? I deliberately reached for my purse on the passenger seat. "Officer, I'm simply retrieving my identification," I stated, my voice level, betraying none of the adrenaline now beginning to course through me. "I said don't move," Carr shouted, his knuckles whitening around his weapon. He was escalating. Textbook intimidation tactics. I froze, my hand halfway inside my purse. The morning commuters slowed, their windows becoming frames for the unfolding street theater. Phones emerged, small black eyes recording what his own dashboard camera was already capturing. This was a public stage now. Another cruiser screeched to a halt behind cars. Backup. For what? A 50-something woman in a cashmere sweater on her way to the federal courthouse? The absurdity was chilling. I made a decision. I wouldn't give him the satisfaction of seeing me flustered. I met his gaze in the rearview mirror, holding it. "I am Judge Evelyn Hayes of the Federal District Court," I said, enunciating each word with precision. He scoffed, "And I'm the King of England. Hands on the wheel." Now, with a sigh that was more for myself than for him, I complied. He ripped my door open, the sound unnaturally loud in the quiet tension. He pulled me out, his grip on my arm unnecessarily tight. The humiliation was a physical thing, a hot flush that spread across my neck. Then across the street I saw him. Liam Carter, my former law clerk, now a sharp-as-a-tack assistant district attorney. He stood there in his perfectly tailored suit, a coffee in one hand, his phone in the other. Our eyes met for a fraction of a second. I gave him the slightest, almost imperceptible nod. He nodded back, his expression grim, and his thumb immediately began moving across his screen. The counteroffensive had begun. A small measure of control returned to me, a cold, hard certainty settling in my gut. Carr twisted my arms behind my back. The metallic click of the handcuffs echoed in my ears, not like a closing lock, but like the sharp, final strike of a gavel. He had just passed his own sentence. He just didn't know it yet. As Carr pushed me against the warm hood of my Lexus, his partner, a younger officer whose name tag identified him as Miller, approached with visible hesitation. His eyes darted between Carr's rigid back and my composed face, a silent conflict playing out in his nervous posture. He couldn't reconcile the scene with his training. I could see it. "Search the vehicle," Carr ordered, shoving me slightly for emphasis. Let him, I thought, my mind already building the legal framework for the lawsuit to come. Every illegal step he takes, every violation of protocol, just builds my case higher. Miller gave a hesitant nod and opened my car door. He was careful, his movements lacking Carr's aggressive certainty. He checked the glove compartment first, pulling out my registration and insurance. I watched as his eyes scanned the documents. My name, Judge Evelyn Hayes, clearly printed on both. "Carr," Miller called out, holding up the papers. "The registration, it matches her story. Could be forged." Carr dismissed without a glance. "Check the trunk." The dismissal was another brick in the wall of evidence. Willful blindness. It was a legal term I knew well. Miller, looking increasingly uncomfortable, used my keys to pop the trunk. He lifted the lid and froze. Inside, resting in a pristine garment bag, were my judicial robes. The official seal of the United States Federal Court was embroidered on the breast pocket, gleaming in the morning sun. Next to it sat my leather briefcase, filled with the case files for today's docket. "Carr, you need to see this," Miller said, his voice strained. Carr glanced over, his expression unmoved. "Anyone can buy a costume," he sneered. The sheer audacity of the lie was breathtaking. But before Carr could escalate further, a third cruiser pulled up, this one without sirens. A woman with short, salt and pepper hair and the unmistakable air of command stepped out. Her name tag read Rostova, and a lieutenant's bars were pinned to her collar. A flicker of hope ignited within me. I remember her, my mind raced. She attended my community policing seminar last year. She asked the sharpest questions. Finally, someone who understands the rules. Lieutenant Rostova's eyes took in the entire scene in a single, sweeping glance. The two cruisers, me in handcuffs against my own car, the open trunk displaying my robes, the growing crowd of onlookers. I requested backup, not supervision, Carr muttered as she approached. "And yet here I am," Rostova replied, her voice calm and even. She turned to me, maintaining a respectful distance. "Mom, Lieutenant Rostova. May I ask your name?" "Judge Evelyn Hayes," I said, my voice steady. "Federal District Court, Eastern Division." Rostova's eyes narrowed slightly. The name registered. She had heard it before. She then addressed Miller, her tone professional. "Officer, what was the probable cause for this stop?" Before Miller could answer, I interjected. "My identification is in my purse on the passenger seat." I was attempting to retrieve it when Officer Carr escalated the situation. Rostova's gaze shifted to Carr, a silent question in her eyes. She then turned back to me. "Judge, may I have your permission to open your purse and verify your identification?" The procedural correctness was a stark contrast to Carr's thuggery. "You have my consent, Lieutenant," I confirmed. Rostova carefully retrieved the purse and located my wallet. She pulled out my federal judicial credentials and my driver's license. She examined them both, her professional mask uncracked, but her eyes widened just a fraction as she confirmed my identity was real. Her next words were ice. "Officers, remove these restraints." Immediately, "Lieutenant, this vehicle matches the description," Carr began, his voice laced with defiance. "Remove the restraints, officer. Now." Rostova's command cut through the air like a blade. Miller moved quickly, fumbling with the keys as he unlocked my cuffs. He murmured a quiet apology. As I rubbed my wrists, a cold fury mixed with the sweet taste of vindication. Carr stood rigid, his jaw clenched, a man watching his world begin to crumble. "Judge, I apologize for this situation," Lieutenant Rostova said, her voice low and serious as she guided me away from the crowd. "To resolve this completely, would you be willing to come to the station? I can personally expedite the process." "Go to the precinct?" A strategic opportunity presented itself. "Absolutely. On their turf, with their cameras, their personnel as witnesses, the incident would be cemented into an undeniable official record." "I will come to the station, Lieutenant," I agreed. "On one condition. I want to make one phone call now, not upon arrival." "Of course," she nodded. I dialed my clerk, Marcus. "Marcus," I said, my voice carrying clearly for Rostova and Carr to hear. "Please inform Chief Justice Rodriguez that I have been detained by Officers Carr and Miller. The Hernandez hearing will need to be delayed." I paused. "Yes, exactly like the Hernandez case. Please have Liam Carter meet me at the Central Precinct with the case files." Carr's face tightened. The name of the police misconduct case I was presiding over had landed like a physical blow. At the Central Precinct, the morning buzz died the moment I walked in, escorted by Rostova. Whispers followed us like a wake. Rostova didn't lead me to a holding area, but to an administrative conference room with a large glass wall overlooking the main bullpen. I had a clear view of the entire floor. "Please wait here, Judge," Rostova said. "I'll handle the paperwork personally." As she left, I took in my surroundings. Carr strode in, heading directly for the chief's office. I watched the dynamics of the room shift. Officers gathered in hushed clusters, glancing towards the glass wall. Rostova returned with a tablet. "Judge, I've pulled the complete dispatch record. There are discrepancies." She placed the tablet on the table between us. The log was time-stamped. The stolen vehicle was a black BMW. The report on my plates, a dark gray Lexus, had come back clean at 9:14 a.m. He requested backup after dispatch cleared your vehicle. Rostova confirmed, her face grim. A memory surfaced, cold and clear. 3 years ago, I presided over Williams versus State. A black business owner detained despite dispatch clearing his vehicle. The city settled for over $1 million. The irony was a bitter taste in my mouth. That case had led to revised protocols. Protocol's car had just shredded. The door swung open and a man with a weary face and a chief's insignia entered. "Chief Wallace." "Judge Hayes, I've just been informed," he began, his tone dripping with practiced damage control. "I want to assure you this will be thoroughly investigated." "Chief Wallace," I said, my voice devoid of warmth. "This is considerably more than an inconvenience. This is a direct violation of my Fourth Amendment rights by an officer who ignored dispatcher confirmation that my vehicle was not stolen." The chief's carefully maintained composure slipped. "The dispatcher confirmed your vehicle wasn't stolen before the stop escalated?" "Lieutenant Rostova has the complete transcript," I confirmed. His face paled. He understood the legal implications. This wasn't just a rogue cop anymore. This was a failure of the system he commanded. And as the federal judge currently evaluating whether his department required Justice Department oversight in the Hernandez case, I knew he understood that this morning's incident was not just a problem. It was a catastrophe. Chief Wallace was still processing the dispatch log's implications when Liam Carter appeared in the conference room doorway, a slim briefcase tucked under his arm. His presence was a quiet announcement that the ground had shifted from a police matter to a federal one. "Judge," he greeted me formally, though his eyes conveyed a message of solid support. He turned to the chief. "Chief Wallace, the Chief Justice has been briefed." Before Wallace could respond, Liam dropped the bombshell. "Judge, courthouse security is reviewing footage from 2 weeks ago. Officer Carr was seen outside your chambers. Off duty." A cold dread, sharp and penetrating, cut through my anger. I felt my blood run cold. This wasn't a random traffic stop fueled by prejudice. This was targeted. This was premeditated. The incident transformed from an insult into a threat. He was surveilling me. I said, the words tasting like poison. My intelligence training kicked in, patterns snapping into place. A planned operation needs communication. "Chief," I said, my voice now hard as steel. "I want Officer Carr's personal phone records for the past month. And I want them now. You could get a warrant, or a federal judge can sign a subpoena. Your choice." Just then, the chief's desk phone rang. He snatched it up. I watched the color drain from his face as he listened. He mumbled a few words and hung up, looking stunned. "That was the mayor's office," he said, his voice barely a whisper. "They just got a call from the Attorney General." The power in the room had not just shifted, it had undergone a tectonic realignment. Rostova arranged for me to interview Officer Miller first. In the sterile interview room, under the hum of fluorescent lights, Miller's composure crumbled. He admitted Carr had a history of stops with heightened scrutiny for minority drivers. He confirmed Carr had lied about my car being a confirmed match. Then they brought in Carr. He strode in, a desperate bravado his only remaining armor. He sat across from me, his eyes defiant. "Officer Carr," I began, my voice calm, analytical. "I'd like you to explain why you continued to detain me after dispatch confirmed my vehicle was not stolen." "I had reasonable suspicion," he recited, the words sounding hollow. "The stolen vehicle was a BMW. I drive a Lexus. The plates did not match. The color was different. Please, officer, explain the basis for your suspicion." Sweat beaded on his forehead. Officer's instinct. I leaned forward. "Officer, are you aware that I served 8 years in military intelligence? That I specialized in detecting deception patterns? Your body language, vocal stress, and pupil dilation all indicate deliberate deception." His mask cracked. For the first time, I saw fear in his eyes. Liam entered the room and placed his laptop on the table, turning the screen toward Carr. Displayed was a call log. His phone records, obtained via federal subpoena just 30 minutes ago. These records show multiple calls between you and Roger Simmons, I stated. The name hung in the air. Simmons was a former officer I had sentenced to 7 years in federal prison for police brutality just last month. It appears your officer's instinct was more like a coordinated retaliation. He stared at the screen, the defiance draining out of him, replaced by the vacant look of a man who was utterly and completely trapped. The next day, I did something unprecedented. I walked into my own courtroom not as a victim, but as the presiding judge. The Hernandez case and the incident involving me were now consolidated. The room was packed. Chief Wallace, his department counsel, Rostova, Miller, and a pale, grim-faced Carr were all present. When the bailiff called, "All rise," the sound of dozens of chairs scraping against the floor was a testament to the gravity of the moment. I ascended to the bench, the elevated position, a physical manifestation of the authority Carr had tried to strip from me. In the robing room minutes before, I had pulled on the heavy black fabric. This garment, which Carr had dismissed as a costume, now felt like armor. Its weight on my shoulders was a familiar, comforting reminder of the law's immense power and my duty to wield it without fear or favor. From the bench, I surveyed the assembly. This court will now address the matter at hand. I began, my voice amplified by the room's acoustics. Federal judiciary rules permit a judge to hear cases involving themselves when a matter concerns the integrity of the judicial process itself. And make no mistake, that is precisely what is at stake today. I paused, letting my qualifications register. Before my appointment to this bench, I served 8 years in military intelligence, graduated first in my class from West Point, and served as legal counsel for the Judge Advocate General's Corps. I am uniquely qualified to evaluate the constitutional implications of yesterday's events. Then I began. Mr. Carter, please proceed with Exhibit 1. The courtroom displays lit up with Carr's own dashcam footage. Crystal clear. I narrated for the record. Note the timestamp. At 9:14 a.m., dispatch informs Officer Carr my vehicle is not stolen. 17 seconds later, he requests backup for a confirmed stolen vehicle. A gasp rippled through the courtroom. Exhibit 2. A dozen bystander videos, seamlessly edited, showing the escalation from every conceivable angle. Exhibit 3. The dispatch audio recording. The disembodied voice of the dispatcher, clear and calm. Unit 47, vehicle plate RHD shows registered to Evelyn Hayes. No flux. Followed immediately by Carr's voice, tight with false urgency. Dispatch. I have a confirmed stolen vehicle. Requesting backup. The direct, undeniable lie hung in the air, indefensible. Exhibit 4. Carr's personnel file. 12 civilian complaints in 3 years. All for minority drivers, all dismissed. But when cross-referenced with dispatch records, a clear pattern emerged. In 9 of those cases, he had proceeded with detention after dispatch had cleared the individuals. Exhibit 5. The courthouse security footage of Carr, in plain clothes, photographing my car 2 weeks prior. Exhibit 6. The phone records. The link to Roger Simmons. The conspiracy was laid bare for all to see. I turned my attention to Lieutenant Rostova and had her sworn in. Lieutenant, based on your experience and the evidence presented, would you characterize Officer Carr's actions as consistent with department policy? Rostova stood tall. No, Your Honor. His actions violated multiple protocols and, in my professional assessment, constitutional protections against unreasonable search and seizure. Finally, I looked directly at Carr. The man who had handcuffed me, who had called my robes a costume, was now reduced to a trembling figure, stripped of all authority. This court finds sufficient evidence to expand the Hernandez inquiry into a comprehensive, department-wide review under federal oversight, I declared. The Department of Justice will appoint special monitors to oversee all operations of the Metropolitan Police Department for a period of not less than 3 years. Chief Wallace looked as if he'd been turned to stone. As for Officer Carr, I continued, my voice ringing with finality. He is suspended immediately, pending termination. The evidence of federal civil rights violations and conspiracy will be turned over to the U.S. Attorney's Office for criminal prosecution. I lifted the heavy wooden gavel. This court is adjourned. The sound of the gavel striking the block was absolute. It was the sound of a system, however flawed, correcting itself. It was the sound of justice. 6 months later, I stood at a podium, not in a courtroom, but in the auditorium of the police academy. The faces looking up at me were young, eager, and impressionable. On the large screen behind me was the dashcam footage from that morning. My own traffic stop had become lesson 1 in their new training manual, Constitutional Policing. Your badge grants you authority, I told the cadets. But authority without accountability becomes tyranny. The back doors opened and a figure entered, her new captain's bars catching the light. Eva Rostova, now in charge of the department's newly formed accountability division, took her place at the side of the stage. She was living proof that integrity could be rewarded. The changes were real. In the 6 months since the federal oversight began, civilian complaints were down 47%. Unlawful detentions have been reduced by 62%. Trust, that fragile bridge between the police and the community, was slowly being rebuilt. Officer Carr was awaiting his federal trial, his connection to Simmons fully exposed. Officer Miller, by contrast, had chosen a different path. He had testified against Carr and now worked with Captain Rostova's division, his first-hand experience informing new training on peer intervention. When I was wrongfully detained, I had a choice. I could have sought personal vindication, a private settlement. But I chose reform because lasting justice doesn't come from individual penalties. It comes from transformed institutions. What happened to me that morning was a violation, not just of my rights, but of the trust we place in those who wear the badge. But it sparked a change that was long overdue. I want to know what you think. Have you ever witnessed an abuse of power, big or small? How do you believe we can ensure accountability? Share your stories and thoughts in the comments below. Let's have a real conversation, but please, always comment with respect for each other's experiences. If you believe that truth and accountability matter, hit that subscribe button and ring the bell. We share powerful stories like this every week because we believe that bringing these experiences to light is the first step toward a more just world.